Hey guys, and welcome back to the Sonic X comparison series, where your host, Hensama, that's me, takes a look at all the changes made to Sonic X when it was licensed by 4Kids and broadcast internationally. At this point, I've made 6 videos covering the first 46 episodes of the series. If you're new, I suggest you check out those videos first, as they provide foundational context to some of the general changes done to Sonic X that I won't cover in this video, as they're all over the English dubbed version. Today, I'm looking at the Homebound Saga of Sonic X, which spans episodes 47 to 52. This saga focuses on the tail end of the first part of Sonic X as the cast goes back to their world, and the emotional drama in that realm. Well folks, if you're here it's because you want to continue that saga, so let's dive into how 4Kids censored the English dub of Sonic X Part 7, the Homebound Saga. Episode 47 has been retitled from Big Decisive Battle on Latitude 0 to Map of Mayhem. The first change is this quick removal of Mr. Tanaka practicing kendo, followed by the removal of text on the news. It's a pretty lengthy text scene removal, with Marine Accident SSN and the text at the bottom being removed. When Eggman is doing research into the island, the text news graphic that appears in front of him has all the text removed. It's all in English and for the most part pretty comprehensible text, but it's all removed here. If you look closely at the map here, the text is removed on it. It's barely noticeable, but you can confirm it is. Now here's a pretty wild change. Deco and Boko steal the map from the guy in the previous scene. Then they run away as Knuckles chases after them. They actually run into a brothel, where the two robots actually dance with some of the, let's say dancers. This is a 35-second long cut, and the removal actually extends into the next scene. When they come back to Dr. Eggman, the kisses on them are removed since they never went into a brothel in the dub. That's pretty spicy, and it's pretty understandable to me why this was edited and removed. Text is removed from the map that Eggman pulls out. The text on the map is kept, but the flashing white text that reminds me of Evangelion is all removed. The scene still lasts the same amount of time, however, and then in a shot immediately after, the text on the map is now removed in the dub. I grant this the immediate inconsistency stamp. When Chris falls into the water, this 7-second long scene of Mr. Tanaka nearly naked is removed. He wants to go and save Chris, but is being held back. When Rouge is trying to help save the day, the gun being held to her back is removed. The gun looks like a hard sci-fi weapon, so it's not too controversial a scene, but Rouge holding her hands up is kept, so 4Kids at least acknowledges that there is a gun to her, which leads into the next edit, where the dub cuts out a few frames of the gun being held to her back in this side shot, but Rouge attacking the dude and knocking out the gun is kept. At least it wasn't removed so that there's an invisible gun like in early Yu-Gi-Oh! Those two cuts remove 3 seconds altogether. The tornado shooting at Eggman's ship has the sound effects replaced as usual, and lastly, the dub cuts out the Suzuku text in Japanese and trims 2 seconds off the ending in the episode. Suzuku translates to be continued. Episode 48 has been retitled from Sonic vs. the Underground Monsters to Volcanic Venture. The first difference is in between the recaps. The dubs is about 30 seconds long, while the Japanese versions is about 52 seconds long. And there's also 2 inconsistencies here, as the text on both shots of the maps contain their text. Come on 4Kids, you're not even trying. This was changed in the previous episode, and now it mirrors its Japanese version. I grant this the inconsistency stamp. When Deco and Boko fail their hypothetical fusion, the shot of the robot of the week imagining their fusion is removed. It's a 5-second long cut. As the cast fights the robots, the dub removes the insert song that plays, and also changes the sound effects on the tornado's gunfire, as usual. And lastly, as Chris remembers Deco and Boko after believing that they passed away, the dub removes this 24-second long sequence of their spirits floating in the sky, followed by a flashback of his experience with them, and then a few of the cast being sad about them possibly dying. In the end, Deco and Boko are okay, but they really left us hanging here. And of course, the implication of death will always be removed by 4Kids. Episode 49 has been retitled from The Day the World Stood Still to The Beginning of the End. During the introduction of the episode, a few magazines showing the world's fanaticism with Sonic and Knuckles either lose their text or replace it. Pretty much every magazine in this 8-second long sequence has its title changed or some text changed. Then the dub cuts out this 44-second long scene of Chris having some juice at Amy's job. Wait, Amy has a job? Yep, she's a waitress, and a pretty good one it looks like, as she gives life-changing advice to most of her patrons. Pretty interesting stuff, and pretty sad that the scene was removed. The text on these freeway signs are removed, and some text is changed into arrows, which I should mention all of these cities are in Arizona in the United States. After doing some research, an approximate city that might be 10 miles away from Flagstaff is Belmont, Arizona. All these freeways also run through it. Is this where Sonic X takes place? It could be. The background flashing animation of Sonic doing a sonic boom is changed once again in the dub, in the flashback with Sam remembering the first episode and his glory days. When Chris is having a mental breakdown, the dub uses different footage to convey his cognitive dissonance. The scene still lasts roughly the same length in both versions, but every shot showing his headspace is changed, except for the last one. As Chris freaks out, he runs into Deco and Boko on the main street, which has a lot of text removal in many storefronts and signs. However, some shots keep all their text, as only the really visible text is removed. Once again, I grant this the inconsistency stamp, and will reiterate that 4Kids plays by no rules. So here's another inconsistency. Look at the edges of text on Eggman's books here. Here they contain text, right? It's not very visible, but it's there in both versions. Well, the scene shows the text about 5 more times in total. Every other time the text is removed. 4Kids, come on. You gotta go all in if you're going to do something like that. Either way, it's an inconsistency. And the last change is that this scene then transitions into Eggman laying some facts to Chris about the unlikelihood of keeping everyone in this world, as it would cause time to freeze or slow down. About 41 seconds in between 3 different shots are removed as Eggman iterates on this. It's a pretty rough scene to watch, as Eggman obliterates Chris with facts and knowledge. Episode 50 has been retitled from Morning of Farewells to Running Out of Time. The first change is that the dub adds a recap, as the Japanese version did not contain one originally. It's a roughly 30-second addition, which leads into the removal of the first scene from the Japanese version. It's an atmospheric scene of Amy packing up her things and saying goodbye to her living space. It's actually pretty sad, and it's a roughly 30-second long cut. The dub then rearranges and removes some shots from this long introduction to the president saying that the cast will soon be going back to their own world. It was actually pretty rough to edit on my end, as 4Kids interlace transitions in places where they weren't there in the original Japanese version. First, this shot of Chris's parents sleeping is removed. Then this shot of Cream, Cheese, and Cream's mom sleeping, then a shot of Mr. Tanaka meditating and Ella cooking is also removed. All this is culminated with a 12-second long removal of Chris and Sonic staring at each other lovingly across a pond. Altogether, about 24 seconds are removed. Inside Chris's school, text is removed from posters in the background in these 3 different shots. This transitions into Chris having a flashback that contains different footage in the dub, and shortening of said flashback by about 5 seconds. In this shot, the restaurant and 777 text is removed from the storefronts. Following this, Bokun at a brothel with his own kind is removed in the dub as well. If you look closely at the mug that one of them is drinking out of, it says oil, which means that they're all robots as well. At least I hope that's what that means. The president being taken hostage not only uses a different shot from later in the episode for his reaction, but also the scene of the feds pulling a gun on him is removed. It beats the hell out of the invisible guns, but it's a 2-second long cut. In this shot, the text Super Oil, which is oil that has collected all 7 Chaos Emeralds, is removed. In this shot, the beer bottle to the left of Mr. Stewart is removed. There are surprisingly many abandoned beer bottles in alleys in the Sonic X world, and 4Kids actually remembered to remove them all. That's why they paid their editors the big bucks, folks. Now here's a pretty fun text removal that's also an inconsistency annoyance. Look at the keep out text in this scene. First it's there, right? Then it's removed in the dub, as well as the sign the text is on. Okay, that's not bad, it happens, whatever. Then in this shot the text is left alone, as well as the sign. Then in this shot the text is left alone in the background of the scene, so yeah, it's removed once. But then at the tail end of the episode the sign is kept, but the text is removed. They must have done this on purpose to bug people like me who would notice stuff like this. I'm baffled and even a bit bothered. But I know that 4Kids is full of this stuff in their repertoire, as they are the kings of inconsistency, folks. During Sam's flashback, Sonic doing a sonic boom once again has its background changed. Then in this scene, the Space Colony Arc activating its energy supply to power the portal has a 5-second long shot removal, which actually contains a touching transparent flashback of Shadow and Maria holding hands, which to me contains certain implications, but we all know why it was removed, because Maria never died in this version, and the implication would be that Shadow is dead as well, which doesn't gel well with what the dub has been communicating. Chris's classmates crying over everyone leaving is removed, as well as Mr. Tanaka bowing to Amy over his grief. And the last change of the episode is an annoying change that actually really bothers me. In episode 50 of Sonic X, Sonic's name is removed from the tornado. I can only imagine that it's due to it containing Sonic's name and that being some sort of FCC violation on marketing a brand inside of a show, but this is something else. Keep an eye on this change too, I'll come back to it. Episode 51 has been retitled from Chris's Long Journey to Friends Till the End. The first change is that the dub removes this very telling scene of Chris being alone in his childhood, and having no one to be around with since his parents left him on his own for a very long time. It's very revealing into why Chris behaves the way he does, and it's a shame it was removed, as it provides a large piece of context for his behavior. But this is 4Kids, and this is an emotionally complex scene. Altogether, it's a 68-second long removal. Then the dub makes its own recreation of the previous episode's scenes. It's not quite a flashback, but it's recycled footage. The Japanese version does its own thing, while the dub uses different footage in many instances, to the point that the two episodes don't align until about the 4-minute mark. So there's a lot of changes here that really do boil down to 4Kids changing the footage around for no reason. Surprisingly, the dub's recreation is only 2 seconds shorter than the original Japanese version. In this establishing shot, text is removed from some barely noticeable storefronts. I'm honestly surprised 4Kids caught this. And then the SS Central Station text is removed from the sign on the train station, which leads into a lot of text removal when Chris and Sonic walk through the city, most noticeably bookshop, and all of these random letterings are removed behind them. Then the post text is removed from this mailbox. The diner in this shot has bus stop removed from it, as well as numerous text removals inside of the diner. Text is removed from the signs on the wall and on the map that Sonic and Chris have. Then on the TV in the diner, text is removed denoting the channel, corporation, and the newscaster's name. When Chris and Sonic are picked up by the hillbilly, text is removed on the street signs, as well as text being removed on the sign behind them once they're dropped off. In the scene after, Sonic saving Chris as they climb the river is removed. It's a 3-second long shot of Sonic helping Chris in slow motion. And the last change of the episode is that a flashback border is added to the flashback that Chris and Sonic share. No footage is removed, surprisingly, but the border is added here. Episode 52 has been retitled From Memories of the Wind to A New Start. The first removal is this 9-second exterior of Creams' mom's house. I love the English of this sign, the house of Creams' mom, which, by the way, keep this in mind for later. Next up is that once again, bafflingly, the Sonic text is removed from the tornado. Then, after a quick edit where the gun-sounding sound effects are replaced again, there's an inconsistency where the name is left alone in this shot. That's an inconsistency, folks. In this shot, if you look at Deco, his reactions are different between the versions. That's because the dub removes the Japanese version of this scene and keeps a shot from later in the episode, but communicates the exact same idea. Then, shortly after that, Deco freaking out over not having a button to destroy their own missiles is removed. It's an 8-second long scene of Eggman thinking he misheard Deco. Inside Tails is plain. The danger text and the Japanese warning text is replaced with a red exclamation mark in the dub. Once Super Sonic arrives, this shot of Tails slowly bursting into tears is removed. It's a 2-second long scene removal. So here's a very substantial change that occurs throughout the second half of the episode. As Sonic returns to his world, the dub removes many different shots of Amy coming to meet him. First, this 2-second shot of Amy realizing that the light she has been seeing is Sonic is removed. Then this 12-second shot of Amy staring at Super Sonic and the beginning of this shot of Super Sonic flying in the air is removed. This is followed by a 10-second removal of this pan of the house, slowly leading up to the picture of Sonic and Amy. Then this 24-second shot of Amy running through the hills towards Sonic is removed, as well as this 10-second aerial shot of the scenery. Here's an immediate inconsistency, but look at the text on Amy's house here. The house of Amy Rose. It's small but legible, right? Well, in this extreme close-up, the text is removed, but the sign is kept. I grant this, you guessed it, the immediate inconsistency stamp. Then this 12-second long shot of Amy crying as Sonic hands her a rose is removed. So overall, about 70 seconds are removed from this scene. This kills any emotional complexity of the scene, as the dub also removes the insert song and replaces it with generic 4Kids stock. I can understand being unable to license or use insert songs, but 4Kids really went out of their way to not only change as much as they could about it, but also to leave in an inconsistency in the scene. Folks, if that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what does. And thus we time skip to where Chris is a grown-up. And after this time skip to the human world, the text Thorndike Science and Technology is removed from the plaque in this shot. In this shot, the cafe, EWO, and open text are removed from these two signs of the cafe where Chris meets up with his friends. If you look behind Chris's head in this shot, the word plaza is removed from the sign of the building in the background. In this blink and you'll miss it removal, the text on the small menu program on the table has been removed. It's barely legible, but it's there. Then the plaza text is removed behind Chris again, followed by the door behind Chris losing the stuff text on the door, as well as the sign. And then the cafe, EWO, and open text is removed again in this shot behind Chris's friend. And the last change of the episode is that the dub adds a flashback border to this minute and 42-second long flashback. 4Kids also removes the shot of Shadow pushing Chris away, again, as they usually do and actually did in that respective episode, and they also cut out the pan of Chris from the first episode where he rescues Sonic. This was removed in the first episode as well. And that's the last change of the first part of Sonic X. With this, I hope y'all learned something you didn't know about Sonic X, as there was a lot to cover. Hell, I definitely learned a lot in my rewatch of this series. It's ridiculous that so many inconsistencies remained in the 4Kids production of the series when they were clearly trying to make a focused dub. But as usual, 4Kids does what 4Kids wants. So it makes sense to me that there were elements of the original that remained that contrast with your typical 4Kids production. Like, this series legit kept all the guns. Some of the direct violence that would be removed from other series was kept, as was some very lewd material. This all just spits in the face of other 4Kids productions, because if Sonic X could keep them, why couldn't the other series? Then there's the absurd changes made, such as Maria's death being in question, the removal of nearly 4 minutes of Team Chaotix's introduction, and so many emotionally complex scenes, all in the name of sanitation for the kids. Which I get, it was a different time after all, and that's why I love to cover 4Kids productions, because they were the absolute worst in terms of anime dubbing. They were the original king of unpredictability that would scrub all of their shows of text in one series only to keep the Chinese text in another. It's beyond baffling, but it's of course the 4Kids way, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And just like with Sonic game releases, the world of Sonic X is vast in terms of what was done to the production. I only recently learned about the TMS-produced scrubbing that occurred, and the vast differences between the original Japanese version, the TMS International version, and 4Kids' version, and that definitely warrants its own video, in due time. With this, there's only one saga left in Sonic X, the Meta X Saga, which spans episodes 53 to 76. I'll be coming back to do that video in the future, as well as some comparisons between the two Sonic Adventure games and their anime adaptations in Sonic X. See folks, just when you think you have one video left, the franchise pulls you back in because even the production of things is interesting in the world of Sonic the Hedgehog. So with that, I'll leave you guys with the promise of more Sonic content in the future. But for now, I'm gonna cover a few other loose ends that I want to touch on in this channel before coming back to focus on those. I promise y'all that I will, and I ask you guys to be patient. As usual guys, thank you so much for watching. Without all of you, this channel wouldn't be anything, and I appreciate the love and support. And even the corrections and threats from some of you guys to focus on more Sonic content. But like I said, I need a quick break from the material to recharge, and the Meta X Saga will come sometime in 2021. Of that I can assure you. Keeping that in mind, please comment, like, and subscribe and let me know what you guys think, and what your favorite change, censor, edit, any observation about the series thus far is. Thank you guys again, and as always, have a good one.